student orientation. My name is Layla Fairnish, and I'm from the Office of Student Rights and Responsibilities. I'm the Associate Dean of Students and the Director of the office. We appreciate you joining us today. Today, we're going to cover the role of our office. This session will be recorded and will be archived and available on the official ECU YouTube channel in a few days. Please give us some time to get the video captioned and uploaded. In order to make sure that we are following accessibility guidelines, the archived recorded session will be closed captioned. If further accommodations are required, please contact the Office of Disability Services. To get started by running through the schedule for the time we have with you today. Right. So today, like I said, we're the Office of Student Rights and Responsibilities. We're going to walk through who we are, what we do, and how we do it, and what we can do, and what you can do as well. We're also going to review some new regulations related to COVID-19. So this is our office. Like I said, I'm the Associate Dean of Students and the Director. We have 8 people who work in our office. Each one has a different role. Some people focus more on academic integrity. All of us focus on personal misconduct as well. And we have Alyssa Arnold, who does mediation in our office. She does not hear conduct cases. Her role is to be a mediator. And then we have 2 office managers and an administrative assistant that if you called our office, you would probably talk to them. That's Andy and Akila. So the role of our office is to foster growth, student growth by promoting students' awareness of and understanding of their rights and responsibilities, and to address student code of conduct and to create developmental learning opportunities and engaging students in ethical decision making. We administer the East Carolina University Student Code of Conduct that applies to students on and off campus. We also engage in campus education, advocacy, and student involvement. Really, the purpose of the conduct process is to educate students while addressing behavior which does not meet the standards of the East Carolina University community. So some examples of, we have 15 code charges that students are held accountable for. Some of them have subsets, or some of them tied back to any other regulation related from ECU. But our most common charges that we see are alcohol, drugs, endangerment, and that usually involves drug distribution or fighting, or drunk driving or driving under the influence. Disruptive conduct, trespassing, hazing, which is usually tied into some type of student organization or club sport, theft, and then anything that involves a student's living situation in campus living. So they're held to the Student Code of Conduct, but they're also held to other violations related to the environment in campus living. And again, they address both on and off campus. Our office also addresses academic misconduct, which covers cheating, plagiarism, collaboration, falsification and fabrication, multiple submissions, which is submitting your work to do 2 different classes or the same class twice or multiple times without permission of the instructors. And then violation assistance, which is exactly just what it says. It's helping someone commit academic misconduct. And then violation attempt. So even attempting to engage in academic misconduct would be a violation. It is the student's responsibility to be aware of the ECU Student Code of Conduct. And once a student is has accepted their admission, they agree actually to abide by the policies of the university and to conduct themselves on and off campus in a manner consistent with our mission. Students have a responsibility to review the Student Code of Conduct and other policies and to seek clarification if necessary from our office. The entire code can be found at that link below, but the easiest way to get there is to go to the ECU website, type in our office name, and then our Code of Conduct is posted on there, or a link to it, as well as the process. So we're going to spend some time talking a little bit about how our office receives reports and what happens after that. So in addition to students, we receive reports from law enforcement, and that can be our campus police, Greenville police. We oftentimes receive reports from the sheriff's office or police, even outside the state of North Carolina. We receive reports from staff, faculty, student org advisors, family members, community members, and a report may involve an individual, multiple individuals, or a student organization. Reports can be submitted on our website, and once we receive that report, we evaluate it and determine if there's a potential for student code of conduct violation. If there is, a student will be sent an email for an initial meeting with our office, with the conduct administrator, or someone from campus living who has been assigned that case. So if it happens in campus living, some cases may be heard by one of the residence hall coordinators or one of their associate directors if it's a campus living case and it falls under a certain area. Someone will then meet with the student, and the student has rights in that process, including they have the right to bring an attorney or non-attorney advocate with them. And then we determine how we're going to proceed with that case. And that depends on the type of case it is and such. And then we, at some point, make a determination if we're going to implement charges, if we're going to charge a student. If we do, then we make a finding based on those charges, or a conduct board makes a finding based on those charges. And then they'll be notified of the outcome, and then there's always an opportunity to appeal that outcome. The general flow of the process can vary by the type of case. So our more serious cases are heard in front of a student conduct board, which means that case is being evaluated for some type of separation from the university. Those are rare and are a small sample of our cases. Most of our cases are resolved with either education or some type of probation through a individual conduct administrator in our office. Cases can take anywhere from one meeting to multiple meetings, depending how many people are involved, and anytime, the timing of the year, or any disruptions we may have, like hurricanes or campus breaks. Communication with that student is always sent through the student email. You will not, a parent or other individuals, a guardian will not be notified of the outcome of a meeting. They will receive a letter if the violation involves a student who is under the age of 21 and is found responsible for either alcohol or drugs. Whoever is in the system listed as their parent or guardian will receive a letter letting them know that that individual was found responsible for violating that provision of the East Carolina Student Code of Conduct. So our process is different from the criminal process. Our goal is education, and we're focused on the alleged behavior of the student and if there was a student code of conduct violation, and the impact on the community. And the impact on the community is how we determine sanctions as part of the formula we use to determine sanctions. We use preponderance of the evidence, unlike the criminal process. So some words you hear in the criminal process are judicial. We use the word student conduct. The criminal process refers to the law. We refer to the student code of conduct. The criminal process accuses someone of violating or committing a crime. We use the word violation of the student code of conduct. We do not have a trial, we have a hearing. And the standard of evidence we use, again, is preponderance, which is more likely than not, or 50.001%, that the violation happened or that there was a violation of the student code of conduct. We don't use words like guilty or not guilty. We use responsible or not responsible. And then we use sanctions instead of sentencing. So we are not the criminal process. A student could go through both processes. So if a student gets arrested for driving under the influence, and we get the report, they will obviously go through the criminal process, and then they will go through the student code of conduct process because they violated there's a potential violation of the ECU Student Code of Conduct. We do not wait on the criminal process, and they do not usually wait on us. Usually our process is resolved much quicker than a criminal process. So Students have rights, and one of their rights is a privacy right. So we do not disclose information or release information to anyone without the student's permission. That includes a parental figure or a guardian or anyone else. And a student can release information to someone, a parent, grandparent, anyone they wish, online through their pirate port by filling out the Buckley form. And that will allow us to have a conversation if you receive a parental notification. So there is a clause in the Buckley FERPA law that allows us to send a parental notification if a student is found responsible, like I had mentioned before, for alcohol or drugs under the age of 21. We may ask you to, if a student has not added you to the FERPA form, we may ask, we will ask the student to fill out the FERPA form, and that will also give us permission to speak with you about the case in greater detail. So what are some things that we can do to help our pirates? And that's a reminder that they're always representing Pirate Nation. A reminder to review the ECU Student Code of Conduct, both the personal misconduct and the academic integrity policies, and to educate themselves on the process, to remind them to check their email and to call our office if they have any questions. Again, always to say something or see something and say something. If a student is the recipient of any type of harassment, or they're involved in a fight, or they want to file a report about another student, they can do that on our website as well. It is important for students to check their email because that is what we use to communicate with them. And so there may be other reasons we call in your student as a witness, or we received a report that they may have been a complainant or a victim of a crime. And so we may call them in to speak with them as well. So every time we outreach to a student doesn't necessarily mean that they're facing some type of code of conduct violation charges. Some provisions related to COVID-19 and face coverings that I wanted to review is OSRR. In the next few months, we'll continue to have most of our meetings virtually with students, and we will be using WebEx as our platform. But there is a PRR, which is a regulation on face coverings related to COVID-19, and how students will be addressed is if we receive a report the first time, we will send the student a letter letting them know we received a report and asking them to, reminding them of the policy, and then also letting them know where they can receive a face covering. If we receive multiple reports on the second time, they will receive another letter, and there will be some type of monetary fine, around $50. And then the third time they will have a meeting with us. So for report 1 and 2, it does not become part of their student record, but report 3, that will become part of their conduct record with our office, and they will be facing some type of probation and a fine of $100, and they'll have to take an educational seminar. If we receive multiple reports that ends up, we're at the fourth report, we will evaluate that student's status, and they could be facing some type of separation from the university or recommendation to the Student Conduct Board for separation. We are going to ask faculty and staff to ask that student to put on a face mask and not report it if they comply. But if we receive, if the student doesn't comply, then the faculty or staff member has the right to file a report with our office, and we may address that behavior starting with the first thing I mentioned, which is a letter. Any questions? All right, if there are no questions, the Good Samaritan regulation. Yes, so we do have a regulation that if you call for help for yourself or someone else, we will evaluate that, and we will most likely resolve the situation. So that's usually if a student is intoxicated with alcohol. That's the most common one we see, or maybe had taken some type of drug. Of course, our priority, if you call for someone for help, that we want the focus to be on the student who needs help. So there may be an evaluation for if that student qualifies for the Good Samaritan regulation, which would allow us to resolve the case without that student having a record, but it may be an educational conversation. But there are some stipulations that it has to fall under, and repeated behavior of that. So if you're constantly calling for yourself, that would not fall under the Good Samaritan regulation. But our goal is always for people to call for help. Any other questions? All right. I think if we don't have any other questions, we could probably end it.